Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS NA Challenger. We are hopping into our 4th match for the North American portion of the broadcast, our 9th match total today. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by the very handsome Jeff and Control Robinson here at the desk as we get ready.
I must be here.
Yeah, we get ready to move into Scarlett versus Semper. This is a match that I'm really excited for, but I want to clarify one thing, all right?
Okay.
This match, these two players always have crazy action-packed games, but there's one other thing that I didn't mention before.
Oh.
Scarlett always ends up winning almost. Almost always ends up winning, and oftentimes it still ends up being like a 2-0, but the games themselves are crazy close and crazy awesome.
You got me hyped. You got me sold on this. Like, what were some of their big clashes that were really good?
One of the games that stands out the most to me are some of the games, like for example in Kings of the North, or a lot of those kind of smaller events, or like a lot of the online tournaments especially, where Scarlett will kind of get this lead. But the thing about Semper that he does very, very well is he plays really well from behind. He inevitably, almost always, as we actually saw last season in Challenger versus Puck, gets behind and then just somehow claws his way back into the game. And sometimes he comes back and actually manages to take a game. Oftentimes he ends up still losing the game, but he makes it look really close. He's very difficult to kill.
Okay. Well, you've got me interested. Semper showed some good form earlier, would you say? Was that the dangerous Semper we've seen before? You
know, the Semper from before in the earlier series, it wasn't quite the same Semper I was expecting to see, but it was still a good Semper. I mean, we saw that.
Impress you much, you would say?
It's not that it didn't impress me. It's just, it was different than I was kind of expecting. The first game, I think, a little bit more on point with how I expect Semper to play. He's known as like this macro Terran that's so bad at, I would say, cheesing, that he's tried to mix in cheesing in his play, and usually just ends up losing the games, but he just does it just so people can't always say, like, he never proxied 2 racks or something. He's like, yeah, I proxy 2 racks, I just don't win with it, but I do it.
So you're hoping to see him in his walking boots then?
Yeah, I want to see him in the macro game. That's typically where Semper finds his strength.
Okay. We'll have to see if he's able to do that, to muster it against Scarlett, who did look good, you would say, right? She played at a very high level?
Scarlett played very, very well today. Did a great job, of course, with the creep spread and everything. We were talking about that before. And just looking really overall solid versus Vindicta.
Okay.
Well. Looks like our first map is going to be Lost and Found. By the way, Scarlett playing from China right now. China playing from Scarlett right now.
Which is interesting, right? That's the same kind of issue as playing from Korea, ping and stuff like that, but you wouldn't have noticed it in her play. Didn't seem to be any issue there.
Yeah, and for those who are actually kind of wondering about the story behind that, so normally you always hear about Scarlett. She's in Korea at the, the Unity House with No Regret and all those other folks, but she's actually at a different pro gaming house in China, where she's there with Kelazor and a few other like foreign players, I think, that are gradually making their way over there, but a lot of Chinese players. So that's also kind of a fun thing, because you got a slightly different meta when you learn from play and talk with the Chinese players.
Well, you still get to play on that Korean ladder, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Ravi, we're in the game, and I cannot wait for you to introduce both of these players.
All right, spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, proudly representing Rise, it is Semper. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have our red Zerg player. She is Scarlett, team expert.
The expectation here is that Scarlett, despite the hyping of Ravi, makes it past easily.
Oh!
A bit of a dream group for her, right?
Yeah, I think that this is, I wouldn't label it as a dream group, but it's probably one of the better groups. It's one of the better groups for her.
Not a dream, but better, is what you would say. So like a nap group then.
Do you prefer your nap dreams over your regular dreams?
No, those are terrifying.
Yeah.
So here it is again, by the way.
Semper going for that 3 racks. Now, again, we've seen the strength of this today.
Yeah.
But again, I really want to emphasize, Semper is not known as a very good micro player.
Right.
He's not known for being someone who's also very good at the cheese and stuff. And Scarlett typically does have a lot of experience dealing with these kind of aggressive plays.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that sneak attack that can really catch you off guard. For instance, one of the Mortal Kombat characters that I like a lot, Luke Cage, known for his kicking and punching. But it's exactly when you expect that he goes low and punches you in the groin.
Excellently done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, drones are going to be pulled off the line. She ends up spotting the bunker very, very early on.
It's a safety bunker, too. It doesn't reach the hatchery, actually, from there.
Yeah, so if she can continue to deny this a little bit longer, it's going to be nice. But another bunker gets started on up. Scarlett starts up that first spine crawler, starting up a lot of lings as well. She's canceled speed.
Different defense here, right? The other Zerg players have pulled their drones. She's not really doing that, so this bunker will finish.
Oh, another bunker even going to be able to get up pretty safely here. It looks like, or at least is going to start to get up. The spine crawler still a ways away.
Another bunker, Ravi.
This is becoming a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I think Semper might even be able to get close to walling this off with another. If you threw it on one more,
not a fourth bunker. Get out of here, Ravi.
It'd be a fifth bunker at that point, right?
It would be a fifth bunker. But you can't wall off the creep there.
Yeah, not with the creep anymore. So, all right, spine crawler is going to try and burrow in the right position. Second spine crawler still finishing up, though.
And these, I mean, this is
bad. This is really bad for Scarlett.
Without the gas, she's going to lose the hatch and have no follow-up. Like, there's no speed link counterattack. There's no Nidus, no Roach. I think she just dies.
Dare I say, Jeff, I think that she might just die here. Repair coming down on the right-hand bunker. These Marines just unload and go to some of the backup bunkers, and Scarlett is already down in workers. The spine crawler is doing damage to the bunker, but most of the, or half the SCVs are still alive.
Yeah, this is real bad. Hatchery is about to die. Queen, low health. Now, that spine crawler does outreach the bunkers, but that's not good enough. So here comes Scarlett. She's going to jump on top of this bunker. Actually did not outreach it, excuse me. Gets another bunker down, but the hatch is dead, and it's cost everything. Scarlett taps out. GG, and I'll tell you what, Ravi, there's a famous line about snakes on a plane, you know? Do you know the line?
Yeah.
It includes some curse words, so I'm not gonna use that. This is a family-friendly broadcast. But if Scarlett could have some words about people building bleep buildings outside of their bleeping base, I think she'd have similar words. She'd be very upset.
I think that she would probably have something along the lines of, I've seen 2 racks and 3 racks in so many games, and I've never seen a Terran player lose, or something along the lines of what.
She'd be like, gosh darn, this is getting really infuriating. Gosh dang it.
Yeah, she
creepers.
Definitely is the kind of person who would get frustrated about a lot of that kind of stuff. And again,
suffering suck attack.
I want to emphasize why that is so effective, coming from a player like Semper especially, is that he doesn't do that kind of stuff almost ever, and when he does, it rarely succeeds. That, by the way, that's the first game he's taken off of Scarlett in a long time. I think before this series, he was something close to 0-9 versus Scarlett in the previous matches. So they've been close games, but they've all been macro games and stuff. So finally kind of ekes one in.
So a player that can't seem to beat Scarlett if they just do a triple barracks bunker rush seems to find immediate success. Would you say that's true, Ravi?
You know, that is one way of looking at it, Jeff.
Huh.
You might say
that's interesting.
That Zerg players just need to get better at defending 3 racks.
That's what it is. They need to start getting better at their defense. What I would have done, double gas, Nidus, expand, and then from the expansion go Brood Lords and win the game.
Okay.
That's what I would have probably done. I don't know why Zerg players keep thinking these they're on this like really easy basic level, like, I'll just defend the bunkers. That's holding back.
I mean, I was also surprised, again, like you were saying, she didn't pull any of her drones to try and deal with any SCVs to try and stop those bunkers from going up. And the other Zerg players we've seen today try and defend this.
And still lost, though, by the way. So, joking aside, I was being silly. That's a really hard thing to hold off, and I really feel like part of what makes people salty about it is it does boil the game down to decisions and micro in that moment. You make one bad decision, you make one bad micro move, and the whole game's over. And you could be, and no disrespect to Semper, you can be, for all intents and purposes, a worse player and beat a better player with this. But guess what? That's why cheese has always existed, my people.
All right. Well, we're going to be starting game number 2 down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue, Terran player not going for the proxy cheese this game. It is Semper. And his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand side of the map. Favored player for a lot of people is our red Zerg from Team Expert, Scarlett.
And she is fearlessly just going to go ahead and hatch first. I will begin the discussion on this, but I don't want to earn the ire of every Zerg player that's listening to this broadcast ever. But I will say, one of the things that is not happening anymore that you can do to look out for this kind of strategy is drone scout. But every single Zerg, and I don't know if it's necessarily true. I mean, I get what they're saying, but they will tell you that it is impossible to drone scout because in all the other games, you are so far behind that you cannot come back from it. Now, collectively, when StarCraft players whine as one, usually there's some truth to it, but there's also a bunch of people that really would rather have it nerfed or fixed or changed as opposed to they change their play style. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah, and I would love to also hear Zerg and Terran players' opinions on, I guess, what's changed about the 3 racks in the past while?
It's never changed, that's the thing. The proxy rack stuff has always been around. It's just, and I've loved documenting this, like kind of mentally, if you will, but they never show it on ladder. When you watch Terran players stream, they almost never bunker or barracks rush. It's one of those things that it's just always good and you don't really have to practice it that much, and they bust out in tournaments. Scarlett's not blinking here though, by the way. She's not changing the way she's playing, which is dangerous because earlier today, and I'm fairly certain she probably watched that, we saw it being repeated to immediate effect.
We definitely saw Soul getting a little bit cheeky with that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's partially just saying, you know, Semper, I don't think at least he would be willing to do it 2 games in a row, but...
Well, we didn't think he would do it 1 game.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 games is even more crazy to think about. But Semper is going to be playing it straight up this game, so a good read from Scarlett, at least, for this one. She does go for that low ground expansion on 16-bit. She has the in-base natural she can take later on, and in fact, that later on is going to be right around now.
Nailed it. Good casting, Ruby.
Got him.
Got him.
But that's not what anyone will remember. Everyone will just remember how I miscalled the Nidus for him.
Well, of course. That's the way it is for us casters. We too live and die by the sword. Now, Semper, with all this information, what is he going to do? Oftentimes, that is the norm. You expect this kind of a thing. Even on a more open map that doesn't have a pocket expand, a Zerg like Scarlett would be looking to take that 3rd. Maybe not this fast, but not too far off from it. And Semper's going to fall back on a straight-up normal macro game. So I personally... I'll be very curious to see how that pans out. Not to get too hypothetical here because it gets a little bit weird, but I would have loved a second cheese from Semper. You wouldn't expect it. You could get a cheap win and get out of it. If he loses this game, he almost certainly can't cheese the last game because that would be the game that Scarlett would think he might return to it. I don't know. This is always the funny, you know, there is no right or wrong answer per se here. I kind of prefer seeing players take risks in this situation.
Well, don't count it out entirely just yet. There are still some of the Hellbat all-ins and stuff that we could end up seeing. Semper, right. There's the armory actually coming down as I talk about it. So this could still lead into just a mech transition. I feel like over the past year, the Hellbat all-in has gradually become less and less of an all-in and more of a, this has to do some damage, but I got my mech transition ready to go.
Well, it's a little combination of Zergs are getting away from any kind of early roaches at all, right? They're not really, the all-in is not as, it doesn't happen as often. So building an early Roach Warren seems kind of silly, and then Terran's got, conversely, better at defending early Ravager, Ling all-ins and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a funny place in the meta right now where both players, Zerg and Terran, tend to go with builds that are less about like, I have to kill him right now, and more about, this is a setup for my follow-up beyond that. I do like these early Spore Crawlers coming out here, though, for Scarlett, as they really can add a nice little buffer of damage to that medevac, but the medevac's going to show up before that. There's already 3 queens.
Oh, yeah, the medevac already taking quite a bit of damage. She's going to have trouble picking up any of these units if she wants to defend, but one of the queens already ends up going down to just the Hellbats and the Marines, and they get into a very nice spot behind that mineral line.
They do, but is this a one-way trip? She has not targeted the medevacs just yet. It's in range. Nope, she's going to pull back. Just kind of waiting. Not a whole lot of damage has been done just yet. 1 queen did die.
Oh, the Spore Crawler!
There it is.
Oh, baited in. Oh, the drones are going to walk past the Hellbats. A couple of them taking some damage, but they do manage to survive for the most part. Only 2 of them end up falling. At the same time, we have a Hellion run by going into the 3rd base, but that is going to get cleaned up as well.
Yep, didn't do that much damage at all. Scarlett's still ahead in workers. She does pull the drones down a little bit early, but is going to go unpunished. So 6 drones in total do die, and Scarlett has a pretty massive supply advantage. Now, that's mostly an army, which right now is not a big deal because it's Lings and Queens, so they can't do anything. And the 6-ish now going on beyond that, of course. Drone advantage is nice, because a lot of times you come out at losing 10+ drones, right? And it's still not game over, but it's bad. Well, that didn't happen. Scarlett's in a great spot.
Okay, Semper wants to continue that harassment though with Liberator. He's gonna get spotted by the Overlord, so Scarlett's on point. She can send her queens ready to intercept this, maybe even unburrow and reburrow the Spore Caller in the right position, and that's exactly what she's gonna be doing. In the meanwhile though, this is keeping Scarlett at home for a little while, and that's important because Semper still wants to establish that third base in the low ground. He wants to get up enough Hellions that he doesn't just die to some Ling counterattack or take a lot of damage at least there.
Yeah, no Wallen even began there, so at your point, more time is needed. Now, interestingly, if you look at the upgrades, it is Carapace and +1 range attack, all pre-lair while Roaches are coming out. Now, Ruby, I've done my studying. I've crunched the numbers on Zerg players. Sometimes on these open maps, which this one is not, and I'll get to that in a second, you just max out on Roaches. You make a bajillion Roaches and you go crack open that soft, beautiful, chocolatey shell that is a Terran player. But as I say that, this is the map where you can actually wall in at your natural, and now you have 3 bases. So if that is what Scarlett's doing, and there's a Hydroden, so I'm going to kind of bail out of my analysis right now. She's not going to max on Roaches, but kind of interesting, you know, she's just playing very safe. And in down 0-1, I guess you kind of have to.
We'll see how things shape out with that. The Hydras, I think, are a nice choice. If you are going to max out on the Roaches and you go for that big attack, that can be really scary. And Semper is the kind of person who needs time to kind of get his economy going. Yeah. So he has the tools to actually get aggressive. But is that a third armory? No, this is second. Okay. Oh, second armory.
You
was
crazy, Ravi?
I was really confused for a moment because normally I'm used to seeing the double armory, but now I realize you go for the Hellbat attack.
Yeah, that's local.
That's just one armory.
Double Thor coming in here. We've seen this a few times today. It hasn't been super mega impressive, but it's again another nice like setup thing. If Scarlett was being super greedy, a couple of Thors show up, they can really ruin a day.
And they might actually be able to. The Spore Callers are really nicely positioned though, making it difficult for the Medevac or even the Liberator to get too much done. The Liberator will survive, and I like that he focus fires down the Spores to make sure he can escape out of here if he needs to.
Yep, now working on that hatchery. A lot of Hellions on the field as well, excuse me. And this hatchery, I'm not seeing any response from Scarlett. The Roaches,
I think this hatchery goes down.
I think you're right, Robbie.
All right, but the Hellions at the same time, we're getting surrounded by the Lings in the center of the map. Still, the Hellions take decent trades versus the Lings, but the Roaches and the Hydras still clean up quite a few of them. And overall, an effective attack from Semper.
Absolutely. And now getting some work done in the middle of the map as well, clearing out some of these creep tumors. Scarlett not down and out by any means. She is still sitting pretty okay. Is that okay? That number is correct. Scarlett has 86 drones. Whoa.
Yeah, might not actually have all the hatcheries in place for that right now, considering she's building 2 of them, but 2 of them are about to finish up indeed, so maybe she'll eventually be able to make use of all those. In the meanwhile, Semper has gotten up that siege tank count and gotten up a pretty scary looking army. We're gonna see, does he decide to continue with any kind of other forms of aggression?
Yeah.
Or is it just the Hellions and the Thors?
Viper's pretty quick here too, by the way. Scarlett has been able to, despite these early losses, continue onward with her tech, which is pretty nice. Upgrades progressing here as well, and the Vipers are going to be that kind of main answer. I also like that Scarlett has been able to establish the harder to get bases, right? Like losing that pocket base sucks, but you're always going to be able to remake that, and that is the most defensible base. The fact that she's established 3 other bases out on the map is really good for her.
Yeah, Semper's doing his best to just try and clean up some of that creep spread, and all things considered, at 9.5 minutes, this does not look like a Scarlett creep spread covered map, as it normally would, but Scarlett still is getting that creep spread out there, at least to a decent degree. The problem is she's had to keep her queens so pinned back this entire game, especially with the Hellions and the Thors, that she actually has not gotten the creep spread that you would normally see from her.
It's worth noting, for sure, and that is going to be an issue, because if you're going to lay siege to one of those bases, not having to cross like a screen's worth of creep is going to be a big helper here for Semper. Semper massing up a very tank-heavy army, which for now is a great choice, but as we see that Spire coming up to finish here, and with the Hive, we'll see Broodlord, so it's going to be up to Semper to get some work done right now. He actually already has some Vikings out, which are a good response to Vipers, of course, but can then parry into a good defense against Broodlord.
Oh, those Vipers coming forward, though. The Thors getting blinding clouded, so they can't actually focus fire down the Vipers. More blinding clouds come down on some of those siege tanks. The ones further in the back are still effective, though.
Not the best spell choice, I think, from Scarlett. If you're not going to apply additional damage on top of those medevacs, going for the Parasitic Bomb is kind of an iffy choice. And then there was all the tanks clumped up, but she abducted one of them, as opposed to blinding cloud, like maybe all 5 or 6 there. And that ended up being Semper taking a decent fight. Obviously not, you know, Scarlett had the wherewithal to back out of there, but that was kind of one of her big chances to do a dent here.
Okay, Semper moving further onto creep, being very gradual about this though. Siege Tank is getting pulled forward. Hellbat's getting in on top of the Hydras, but Scarlett taking a lot of Siege Tank fire during all of this.
Yeah, well there's the concave, another abduction of a back tank, and there still is, looks like 2 or 3 on that low ground, putting out a lot of damage, but Scarlett has picked apart enough of this. She makes her way forward and is able to crush through the front lines, and now it's these exposed tanks. And if that first battle was bad, getting all of the reinforcements is terrible, as Scarlett now doubles the army supply and can even do more damage.
Yeah, once you lose all those Hellbats, you can lose the frontline buffer. Suddenly your tanks just disappear a lot faster, but as long as you even have a few units in the front, your tanks just feel like, you know, they'll make up for any of the losses that you have. Semper can try and remake a lot of that army, but he lost a lot there, and with the Broodlords on the way, you were talking about this, Jeff, this is where it gets really dicey for poor Semper, who now has to decide how does he want to use that starport time, and unfortunately right now, he's not actually using it at all for Vikings.
He's made the choice to just turn it off right now. A lot of drones are going to die here. But to your point, Ravi, it's one thing to remake a ground army so you can defend across these 4 or 5 bases, ideally for a Terran player, making tanks, Thors, that kind of stuff. But when you also have Broodlords bearing down on you, now you're doubling down on what you have to remake, and to do it from scratch after losing your full army, it's really close to impossible. I do like this harass from these expendable units getting some damage done. You can see 20 drones going down. And normally that would be terrible, but Scarlett's down to 71 drones after losing 21.
And gonna go back straight up to 80 with that next round of drones completing, which is a little bit mad, but Semper, the other thing that he's doing is he's buying himself space. Unfortunately, that's also buying Scarlett space to get up some of these creep tumors, get that creep spread back up to normal Scarlett levels where it's in vision range of Semper's bases.
Would love like an Ultra Cavern or something from Scarlett. I think this is something that Bly earlier today did really, really well with, and that is like if you are able to counter the Broodlords and shut them down, good for you. But then all of a sudden 10 Ultras show up and you have, you know, a bunch of Vikings and stuff that's geared up to fight Broodlords more often. I guess that's neither here nor there because this is here. And I know there were some Vikings being made.
There's a few, but not many. There's 4 Vikings out right now.
Oh, it's ahead of our anti-air. Okay, there it is. It's just Hydras and Queens, though, so not the absolute best. The problem is it's here right now, so this base should very well die. And even if the Broodlords get cleaned up, trading out Broodlords for that base is definitely favorable to Scarlett.
Yeah, even just having a few transfuses available for Scarlett is nice. And, of course, those siege tanks have to be very cautious about laying too much friendly fire down.
Semper in his loincloth and sharpened stick is charging the Tiger out here, and Scarlett's like, no, not yet. I'm getting the final touches on my army.
Oh, with the Vipers getting into the mix, this is hard for Semper. It's really difficult.
It is very difficult, yes. Here comes some of the Corruptors to go ahead and take some of that as well.
Blinding Cloud, he's not actually splitting out those Vikings and moving them out of the Blinding Cloud. The Broodlords all come very far forward, but the Siege Tanks have to unsiege now, otherwise they'll just end up killing their own Thors.
Back and forth we go. Scarlett is a very safe player. Queen's transfusing, as you said, but this fight is going to happen. Semper's going to do it. Vikings getting some pretty good damage, but there's a huge concave of Hydras. Now the tank count's pretty high, so that gun line for the Zerg, is getting depleted, but the Broodlords still have a pretty big number behind that. Semper's running out of options. 30 some odd supply advantage for Scarlett. I think we're going to see another 3rd game, Ruby. Can you believe it?
Amazing. Yeah, this Planetary Fortress is going to end up falling, and I feel like with it, a lot of Semper's chances of being able to pull back this game. The Thors are desperately trying to hold on. But at this point, Scarlett seems to have locked it down. GG, 1-1.
Yeah, Scarlett able to come back with that confident play. Again, not seeing the cheese. Semper went into the macro game, and this is kind of what he's been doing in all his other TVZs. It's just been that mech style right there. We haven't seen any, have we seen? I think in EU we saw some bio, right?
We did see Vindicta going for bio. Vindicta was going for some bio versus Scarlett. Actually looked pretty decent with it as well. And I know that Semper has been going for a lot of the mech. Mech is like the trendy thing to do in TVZ these days. But I really still love seeing Semper's bio a lot more than I like seeing his mech. I think it suits his style where he likes to be hyper-aggressive from so many different angles. And when you're going for mech, you can be aggressive with, say, the Hellbats or the Hellions or something doing run-bys. And maybe the Thors are also doing some damage, but even those, they see a point where it's like, you don't really have the Thors running around in medevacs after a while. So, I don't know. I feel like the strongest points of Semper's play tend to be coming with mech or bio in the late game. It's not so much with mech.
Yeah, and if I kind of think about this previous game we just saw. We saw some pretty good harass, not incredible, but pretty good. Okay defense from Scarlett, but not amazing. We saw her take kind of one bad fight, but not so bad that her whole army got flattened and she was in a lot of trouble. I guess the point I'm trying to make is Scarlett did not play perfect here.
Yeah.
And I still kind of feel like she was never really in danger. Semper had a decent effort. I don't really think he made huge mistakes, but I feel like Scarlett is that special kind of player where, to a certain extent, if you're at this degree where you're like, I'm just going to go tit for tat with you, we're gonna just play macro on a big map like this, and I'm gonna hope to outplay you. I really feel like there's very few players that can do that, and I would not name Semper on that list. So I agree with you. I'm looking for something to throw out wild. It doesn't have to be an all-in, doesn't have to be a bunker rush, but something different to get Scarlett off of her rhythm, because if she just plays her game, I don't see Semper winning.
Off of her rhythm is a really great way of putting it, because the way that Semper oftentimes plays, and the reason why he ends up doing a lot better in those late game situations is once he has the tool sets to send out medevacs and have 4 different attacks coming in from different angles and play that positional game a lot of the time with a Zerg player, that is when he ends up disrupting his opponent's rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's also when he turns the game into these wonkier situations, because he doesn't also defend perfectly a lot of the time in those situations. He is still taking a lot of damage, but it's just about the fact that he's turning the game into such a chaotic situation. That's what he kind of, I think, finds a lot of strength in. So we're going to be hopping into game number 3 to see who is going to move out of the group into the playoffs and who's going to have to play in the decider match. Spawning up here in the top left, it is our blue Terran player from Rise Esports. It is Semper. Spawning down here in the bottom right, known as the Queen of Blades, it is the red Zerg player, Scarlett.
I gotta be honest here. I think the scene needs a good Scarlett. I need a clean win out of her. See some good performance at that playoff. Hopefully avoid Masa. Get away from his tomfoolery.
Yeah.
And get her to Valencia and beyond. I really enjoy the scene when Scarlett is one of the factors.
When Scarlett is winning, the entire scene, I think, rallies behind her to a large degree. And okay, this is gonna be actually not just a pool first. It's actually, and it's not 12 pool by any means. It is around like 15 pool, but it's gonna be a pool gas. So she's also gonna get up a pretty decently early Zergling speed instead of kind of going straight for that hatchery as well.
Yep. This is, by the way, I'm almost certain, her predicting that she's gonna get double racks or even triple racks. And if those stuff starts to show up, because of the early gas, you can go right into Ravagers if she wants, or Speedlings, or Nidus. There's all kinds of options available to you, and you just cancel the hatch as opposed to losing it. It's still a dangerous situation that the game gets weird, but that's not what's happening. Semper is just going to go ahead and return to his own vanilla style with a high ground CC. Does he have a scouting?
He is not really scouted, just, he did scout the actually, oh yeah, he scouted the later natural. Yeah. Okay. This is really cute.
Look at you saying he didn't scout. Give him some credit.
Okay, well, Marine, wow, it's going to be able to get some damage done to the Overlord. I only say wow because I actually wonder, because the command center is going to have to spend time lifting. Normally you have the command center on the low ground, and you just kind of straight send it over. But since you have the command center that's going to be floating over, I kind of wonder, do you just use it for a little bit of extra vision, snipe off that Overlord early, shut down some of the vision? No?
He had a bunch of Marines, sure, but one Marine with a floating CC, it would actually take quite a while.
What if you made more Marines, Jeff?
Well, then there you go. Yeah, I mean, if you've got like 9 Marines, sure, float it over.
Okay.
And he is making more. Yep. It is that the beginnings of Bio? Or do you just make these 2 Marines and switch the factory over?
Yeah, I feel like it's too early to say about, because even that last game, if you think about it, he did go for more than just 1 Marine. He made, I think, 3 or 4 at least, and then went for the Hellion drop with also a couple of Marines inside. Whoever gets the next attack wins this. Actually, no, the drone's going to have regeneration, so Scarlett's going to win this in a second. There you go.
Nailed it. Good prediction there, friend. And speed does finish, by the way, so it is going to be speed. Scarlett not making a critical amount of lings or anything like that. She's definitely not going to expose herself to a good defense from Semper, and then she's just way behind. As we saw, if the game goes longer, it's really hard to see Scarlett losing from there. And she is continuously scouting that there is no low ground CC, so we know that this is a normal opening, and I'm sure Scarlett's going to infer that, just a safe CC. But we've already seen Semper break the mold a little bit and go for the triple barracks proxy. So honestly, she's not going to take too much of a risk there.
Yep. Command center just floats over. Rest in peace, the dream of killing off an Overlord. There is only that one.
Wanted it so bad.
There's only that 1 Marine now here, so. And the rest of them are a little bit further back.
It's just that one Marine.
It's just that one Marine.
And the 4 others.
And then the 3 others. Let's not make it sound worse than it is, Jeff. It's only 3.
You're right. I'm sorry. Can still do it with the medevac coming out, though, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what you usually do it. Okay. Armory coming down, and yeah, you're right. Hellbats it is, and...
Feels late, though, right? Like, and not a lot of Hellions. There's the 2, I think, out there. 2 more coming.
Only 6.
Oh, no, 6 is pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I like this. No, I do like this,
yeah.
because this basically says...
5 Marines, and you can load up, like, maybe 1 Hellion and just run in with the
No,
rest
it's a walk. Yeah, it should just be a walk. It should be a concentrated frontal assault.
Oh, Awkward Ling does get in and get some decent scouting information of the lack of units at the front. Now sees all the Hellions, and whoa! He's actually just going to go into the front with the Marines as well, and I don't hate this.
Everything heals, yeah, and here we go. And this is that timing tag I was talking about earlier. And even what I was asking for this game, just get weird, get different, put the game on a line here. There's a lot of Queens, though. They're starting to work at range. Ling's going for the surround, but they're really ineffective. So it's all about those Queens, and already a couple of Hellbats have been peeled off. A pretty good defense from Scarlett so far.
Yeah, is able to kill off a majority of the Hellions, kills off the medevac. The Hellbats are doing their best to hold the line, but once they're gone, the Marines are going to get absolutely demolished here.
Yep, and they do. So you see that, and you see 9 drones dying. That's not bad, and honestly, if it weren't for those 9 drones, I would say Semper is just dead. But as it is, the reinforcements do get cleaned up as well. And they're about equal in workers, so that's what I'm saying. 11 drones is pretty good for Semper, but I still like Scarlett's position, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because she can re-drone fairly quickly after that, and she killed off enough of the army that Semper has kind of lost any form of real map control for a bit.
Yeah, no map control, right?
And he's just got to focus on defending that 3rd, and I think he should be grateful that he has even these 2 Hellbats alive, because he can see, okay, what's popping out of that larva? Are you making drones right now, or are you potentially looking to try and contest a 3rd or break down my wall?
I just like when you say that, and they're like, no, actually, we're going to go die. But you're right, they do get scouting information out of this. And oh my goodness.
Scarlett,
one more shot, please.
Scarlett, please. Okay.
7 more drones.
That's really not too bad for 2 Hellbats.
Well, that's not. Semper now up in workers, and of course that switches with the heavy production of Zerg. But if you look, I believe there's no lair, right?
Lair's only just now starting up.
That's late.
Along with those 1-1 upgrades. So Scarlett did commit a lot to that kind of defense, and even getting up some of the Lings and Banelings to the follow-up.
Yeah.
Not really knowing, are you still attacking with this? She does have that Overlord, and she sees the 3rd that is down now, and she also knows that, of course, is not going to have an easy opportunity to start mining in the near future.
That Overlord, we said this, I think, a couple broadcasts ago. It has to be the best Overlord in the game right now. It gets so much information in that spot. Sees nothing but Hellbats here. Yeah, it's just like slid over. I think a Marine did actually like scoot it off. It does see another grip of Marines. It has to tell you that bio is what you're facing. You wouldn't make more Marines if you're just going to go into mech from that point forward. So she can infer that information as well. Sees the saturation, all kinds of stuff. But state of the game-wise, Semper gets some pretty good edge there. Scarlett's able to surpass. One of the kind of things to keep your eye on, though, is Semper's establishing a 3rd, and Scarlett just now throws down that 4th hatch. So any kind of economic damage from Semper, any kind of delay is going to make that really, really dangerous, because that 4th is just now going down.
And this is really cute, too, because we see the 4 Hellions load up into the medevac, and this is going to be a little odd, I think, for Scarlett to maybe see, because she's going to have seen all the Marines. She's probably going to be expecting bio, like you said, but now it's going to be a timing with not only the Stim Marines and the medevacs, but also a couple of Hellions running into the main base at kind of an odd time.
Yeah, or Hellbats, right? Just transform on the spot, but
may not get actually the opportunity to do too much here. He does kill off a handful of workers. This is already some decent damage for units that are not really going to see that much value anymore. If you get away with a medevac, at least.
Decent damage. All right, I'll tell you what. As the comforting, loving mother of the North American scene, I can see what you're doing. My problem is, and we talked about this just a few moments ago, map control-wise, is you were saying earlier, Scarlett's typical creep was not found. Well, guess what? Here on Acid Plant, it is alive and well. The entire map is swarming with creep. And Semper is, at least for right now, kind of giving up on that. Like, he's just not out there. Usually you drop a couple of medevacs and work on that. We saw that earlier, but it got pushed off just by Lings and Queens. And here, not willing to scan either. So it's just, it's a problem, and it's going to become your death. if you don't do something about it.
Yeah, a little surprised he's not even trying to clean up any of the creep. He definitely had a scan available. He's just going to go for this attack on the south side, or the right-hand side. Not going for the area by the destructible rocks, where you oftentimes see those big siege tank pushes coming later on in the game.
The main, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, see so many units over by the third, or why not?
You know what we never see is defensive Niduses. Imagine connecting your bases with Nidus Worms. Nobody ever does that.
Used to do that in Brood War a lot, right?
You had to.
Well, Ling's going to be going into the meat grinder here
Oh,
of these bio, but the medevacs get caught by the corrosive vials. He doesn't quite pay attention to that.
Yep, he was just looking away for a second. It's really hard. In this game, there's so much to control, and for right now, Semper's going to be wishing he would have controlled that. So down 20-ish supply, the exchange definitely in favor of Scarlett. And if you look at that production tab, she is amassing a lot of Lings, a lot of Roaches. We already saw a good number of Ravagers. And that kind of army typically does not sit around. If you lose a medevac or two, you're going to incur the wrath of the Queen of Blades.
All right, I like that Semper is now kind of proactively cleaning up the creep zone right outside his third base. He's going to spot all the Ravagers moving forward. If he didn't know the attack was coming before, he definitely knows now.
Yep. And what can he do? I mean, he's got the second factory over at that third. An okay number of tanks, but the problem with this is Ravagers have a pretty decent range, so you don't want all your tanks in one spot, right? You got to defend across a space. Well, that's what this kind of build puts the pressure to.
Okay, snipes off a few of these banelings, loses a handful of the Marines, but even just pulling these units away from those rocks for a little bit, which is still sitting at 8 hit points left over.
Dude, the banelings. Show me the tab, please. It's like 50.
48, not
Holy
bad.
Cow.
Not bad.
I balled 48 out of 50, by the way. It's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Looks like Semper is going to have some hard time trying to deal with this.
You're dead. Yeah, he's dead.
Yep, siege tanks not really getting the connections they need. The corrosive vials just obliterate everything.
So many banelings as they connect with all of the SCVs. Actually, they decide not to, because why not? And the natural is gone, and that's it. Scarlett strikes back. How dare you bunker rush me, she says. She wins 2 games in a row.
Well played by Scarlett in that last game, looking a lot more dominating than I would say some of the previous games. There were some weird moments there with, I guess, the worker harassment and stuff, but overall, still seeming to have a good control over the game.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, one of the talk of the town that's going to come out of this day of broadcast of WCS is that bunker. The Proxy barracks. We had a lot of pretty salty European bros on the Twitters talking about it being insanely high percentage, and they got a little bit memey. They all kind of copy pasted themselves. But what's kind of funny is it's a little bit like once something like that's spotted. I mean, I don't know if we have any TVZs tomorrow, but you can almost be certain this will be a theme that's going to repeat for a while.
Yeah, well, I know Euthermal was also joining in on the copy pasta, and he is also playing tomorrow versus Nurcio, I believe. I think Nurcio was the original person who made the tweet, and then everyone else copy pasted off of him. Could be wrong on this, but he was the first person on my Twitter timeline.
I think you might be right.
So that's going to be a fun one to watch out for tomorrow.